The Seattle Seahawks are taking on the Baltimore Ravens. You have two of the top teams in their respective conferences squaring off. You know, the Seattle Seahawks, right? Let's start off with them. They're 5-2. And, you know, they've had some pretty big wins. Like, they beat the Detroit Lions. They got a pretty solid win over a Cleveland Browns team that is really good defensively. Even without Deshaun Watson, Cleveland is a really formidable team. And they also beat up on the Cardinals and the Giants. But I look back to their loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. And if I were to ask you why Seattle lost that game against Cincinnati, you're probably going to tell me that the offensive line let Geno Smith down. But what if I told you that Geno Smith has been riding back this year? Because he has. Like, Geno Smith has not looked like the same quarterback this season that he was in 2022. He's been heavily inconsistent with taking care of the football. He's had a turnover in nearly almost about their last couple of games. And against a Baltimore Ravens defense that currently is ranked number 1 in the NFL, if you're a Seahawks fan, do you trust Geno Smith to lead you to the win in this game? Because you're going up against Lamarvelous, not Lamar Jackson, Lamarvelous, people. Make sure that you remember that name. Lamar Jackson's new name is Lamarvelous, because that's what he's been looking like this season. He's been looking like the black version of Tom Brady. He's been really good operating in the quick passing game. The only reason why Lamar Jackson's statistics aren't better is because at times these Ravens wide receivers have an issue with the dropsies. But when these receivers are clicking on all cylinders and this team is executing to their peak level, you get the performance that you got against the Detroit Lions. This is the best defense in the NFL statistically. They can get after you. They got a really good pass rush. They're really formidable against the run. Seattle, I think the formula to them winning games is, yeah, you need Geno to make plays here and there, but you really need the run game to be functional. And if the run game isn't functional and you put Geno Smith in situations where he has to carry you to a win, that may not always result in you being able to end up in the winning side of these ball games, especially against a team like Baltimore. Because Geno Smith, he just is one of those quarterbacks that he just kind of can be a little bit reckless with the football. And his offensive line at times can be a little bit inconsistent like it was against Cincinnati. Cincinnati was really getting after Geno Smith. And the reason why I referenced that Cincinnati game is because they got a really good defense. And you're going against the Ravens, who have an even better defense. Now, when we flip sides and we compare or talk about Seattle's defense to the offense of the Baltimore Ravens, Seattle defensively has looked better than what they have looked in the last couple of years this season. Now, this defense still isn't great, but your defense is more than capable of being able to get a couple of stops in this game, especially with the way Devon Witherspoon has been playing. Devon Witherspoon has been locking down any wide receiver that he's been matched up against. And I think Baltimore's best wide receiver right now has been rookie Zay Flowers, a.k.a. Joystick. And I can't wait to see the matchup between Devon Witherspoon and Joystick, because that's going to be some must-see football. Zay Flowers, he is really good getting off the line of scrimmage. He's been the most consistent wideout that Lamar Jackson has had when it comes to consistently taking, consistently catching the ball and making things happen after the catch. Then you got Mark Andrews that you got to worry about. But I do think from a personnel standpoint, Seattle definitely has the guys to slow down this Baltimore Ravens offense. It really just comes down to execute. Can Seattle's defense execute? And that's really going to be the big thing when it comes to Seattle finding a way to win this game. It really comes down to execution, because I believe Seattle is one of the most talented teams in the NFL. They got depth at every single position: receiver, defensive line, linebacker. It really just comes down to Geno Smith being able to execute and taking care of the football. I don't know if Kenneth Walker is going to have a big game against a really stout Baltimore Ravens defense. And if the Baltimore Ravens can watch these games just like I can, and I can tell you guys how inconsistent Geno Smith has been, and I can tell you that if you slow down the run game and you force Geno Smith to beat you, that's a recipe to the Ravens winning this game. I'm pretty sure the Ravens know the same thing. If you're Geno Smith, you got to come out and you got to play your best game of the season up to this point. The Geno Smith that we saw last year definitely isn't here in 2023, but that doesn't mean that he's bad. Doesn't mean that he's cooked. This just means that he needs a little bit more help to help elevate his play. And when you're going up against a team like the Baltimore Ravens, man, like, you got to be able to be a superstar. You got to be able to find a way to elevate your team in big moments. And if Geno Smith in these big moments is throwing costly interceptions like how he did against the Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to lose this game. Against Cincinnati, he had a really bad red zone interception. You can't do that against a team like the Baltimore Ravens. You can't afford mistakes. The best teams in the league can't afford turnovers. The best quarterbacks in the league don't make costly mistakes. Lamar Jackson hasn't really had too many costly turnovers this year. When you go back and you watch that performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which people unfairly put on Lamar Jackson, his receivers dropped 2 touchdowns in that game. You had a drop by Rashad Bateman in the end zone, and you had a 50-yard, what would have been touchdown by Nelson Aguilar that got dropped in that game also. When these receivers are playing well, the Ravens offense is damn near unstoppable. But even then, you got to find a way to contain Lamar Jackson, which is why Geno Smith has to play well in this game. Lamar Jackson is one of the biggest reasons why the Ravens are in contention for the #1 seed in the AFC. There's a reason why Lamar Jackson has one of the best winning percentages amongst starting quarterbacks. It's because of just how dynamic he is at the quarterback position. Lamar Jackson is one of those quarterbacks that you can say, go win us the game. Go carry us to the win. Can you say that about Geno Smith? I would like to say that you can, but is he consistent enough to do it? And what Geno Smith are we going to get? Are we going to get the Geno Smith that can give you a 24 out of 31 passing performance for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions? Or are we going to see a Geno Smith that gives you 2 touchdowns and 2 costly interceptions? Lamar Jackson, he's not going to put the Ravens in a situation to lose this game. He's really hard to stop in third down situations. Even when you got these receivers covered, it doesn't matter. Lamar Jackson can get out the pocket, buy time for guys to get open, or, like we all know, he can take it to the house damn near anytime he runs the football. If Geno Smith doesn't step up and have a big-time performance in this game, I don't think Seattle's going to win. And that's why I'm going to take the Ravens to win, because I love Geno Smith. He was a great story, but maybe last year kind of just was a one-off season. And I'm not saying that Geno Smith is this bad quarterback all of a sudden, but all I'm saying is that Geno Smith went from damn near being a fringe top 10 quarterback to now being a middle-of-the-pack quarterback this year. You can't trust him to take care of the football. He's too streaky, and he makes too many costly, boneheaded decisions with the game on the line. You can't be turning the football over in the red zone. Seattle, the formula to them pulling off this upset is that they got to be able to play complementary football. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. The Ravens, they are stout against the run. And if they put Seattle in a situation where they got to win this game by throwing the football with Geno Smith, I like Baltimore's chances. We know that Seattle has some really good receivers, JSN, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. But Geno Smith, his decision-making has been really questionable at times. And I think it's going to cost Seattle in this game. That's why I'm taking Baltimore to win.